think it was Cindy, something about they wanted for the last town council meeting, us to look at B1 and B2.
No,
Yeah.
what they want
Is
is
that-
that it's height, building height.
Well, okay.
That's what they're worried
At
about.
council meeting, us to look at B1 and B2.
No,
Yeah,
what they want is that it's height, building height. Yeah, I
Well, okay.
at that meeting and I haven't attended it online
Yeah.
yet.
So, yeah, what you're saying.
Well,
So,
we'll
all
just
right.
add that to the agenda and we can tell us what they want. So,
This is just a corn up. Somebody answer it up to our attendees.
you may, yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
Yeah, if you got a copy,
uh,
yeah, yes, that's excellent. Oh, well.
Ignore my email.
Ignore my teaching.
thanks.
Oh, okay.
Just so everybody
And I
knows.
found it in like a very logical
This is just a
way.
corn.
Oh.
I'm just corn up in there.
Thank
And then I'll talk about corn.
What
No.
email?
So don't send it to anyone.
No.
Send it to anyone.
I was trying to find that letter that you had sent that you wanted to add. I feel like you did it. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. And then I found totally. Oh, okay. So good. Okay, good. I was like, wow, I actually put it where it should have been.
Oh,
But I
okay.
couldn't find it where I thought it, yeah.
No, I got.
I'm sure it would be better, you know, do the same, so, thank you.
Here we go. But, you know, I just, my toes are touching the ground, oh well. Story of my life, you know. You can adjust the height, but then you'll feel like. But then I'll be like this, I know, I don't have too many choices, so we'll go with what we got. Okay, is it the witching hour? Yeah, yes, we should call this the order, let Paul pass that, his.
It's just sitting there. Shower about paper.
I know, and you ain't seen nothing yet. So, you know, before we start the meeting formally, you know, we now have a SharePoint, we now have access to SharePoint and you all got invitations to join the site. Right, so, and Cindy actually posted something and I just put up a document that I'm having trouble naming. I named it, but then it's still showing up as document. So I've got to figure that out, but I put up the vision statement. And I put up the original vision statement, the first version, and then the final version so that we have it documented.
Are you politely suggesting that we should begin to use this?
Yes, I'm politely suggesting that you all should begin to use this. And this is a good place to put stuff. Like Paul, these, you know, we'll talk about these this evening, but this material, you know, can go up on the SharePoint.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, well, let me go ahead then and call the meeting to order. And thank you, Debbie, for being here.
Yes.
Let's have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Adler,
Present.
Commissioner Holdren, Commissioner McGowan, Commissioner Temple,
Present.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Present.
and Chairperson Greer. Okay, you have a quorum.
Minutes from the meeting on January 5th, which was basically the last citizens workshop, so they're brief. And then meetings, and then a brief minutes from the work session, just to document that it took place and talk about what we're discussing. So may I have a motion to approve and then we can discuss this.
So moved.
Okay, anybody got any corrections or comments that they want to make on these?
Just the ones I made at the,
Jim.
just the ones
Just the ones that,
I made in the email to you
yeah,
the
you
other day.
made it to Debbie too.
There's probably not. I don't know.
Okay. Did you get that, Debbie, or not? Okay.
I know we're not,
The email to Debbie.
okay, it was just. It was just a minor thing, but
It was about the German, I think. So it was nothing about comment, so I'll send that to you and then. They should, that should.
Oh, it was the date of the comprehensive plan. It wasn't. I forget what date you have, but that date was not correct. It was the 2009 comprehensive plan amended in January of 2000.
Oh.
Where the future land use map,
It was, okay.
the one I had anyway, unless there's a more recent one. Yeah. That was my comment, and
One on the town web.
future land use map?
Oh, no, just the comprehensive.
No. No, that's the one that's missing a future land use map. So, yeah,
Yeah, Jim has
but the one I brought in, which I should have right here.
got a copy of it.
Yes. That was.
Jim
and
has
then-
the only copy of that I've been able to find. And
Yeah.
it goes back to whenever that was.
You need to scan this and put it up on the SharePoint. Did you get my email about that? Did you see that? I thought I emailed everyone.
I didn't see.
When did you send it?
Yesterday,
Yesterday?
Fletcher told me that Matt received a disc of all our maps from the last map maker. And I never got to see what it said.
Okay.
And he said we need to search the town office for this disc. And I've forgotten who he said made the maps. I could ask him again. I mean, maybe no.
Fletcher, can we get it from the horse's
Tom
mouth?
Brockenbrough, but he said he gave it to us. And I talked to Debbie, and nobody's been able to locate it. I don't think you've done a real big search for it yet, have you?
I mean, I just looked through match, all
Yeah.
the awards and whatnot in there.
Who was that did them, Fletcher?
The GIS officer for the county, Tom Brockenbrough, something like that, I can't think his name.
Broken bro.
Brockenbrough, yeah, he's the guy, and they're in the process of changing computer systems, so they're not able to do much right now for us.
Hmm.
I talked to him, yeah, because I know the new interim manager wanted to smooth things, so
Is there,
we're
would we
working.
call him and see if there's any chance he kept a copy?
If you want to, sure.
That's what I thought too, I didn't know if you just burn another one.
There's some real issues with their system over there, so it's not happening.
Wow.
We didn't have the disk.
Okay, well, we have, the map people on this group are Jim and Greg. And they're also going to go and talk, I think that, we could use those, but I think that we wanna create a set of maps that, some of those maps were, had too many layers and were,
This is value for a lot of the overlay.
yeah.
No, it's important.
Yeah.
We need both.
Yeah, so, okay,
So,
well, we'll to try to find it.
A question for Tom is what is actually on the disk? Are they just PDFs of maps, or are they actual GIS data that can be used? That's the question for Tom. Who's going to talk to Tom?
Yeah, but I want whoever is working on maps to be the conduit on this. Let's not spread this out. Yeah, so thank you for the offer, Cindy, but let Greg and.
Sorry, no, she didn't hide it.
Well, you told me to say you would do it, but.
What was his name again? I'm sorry.
Broken bra.
Broken Bra, like it sounds.
Yeah. BROKENBRAUGH. GIS coordinator for Accomack County.
Okay. See if we can find the Onancock maps. Apropos of nothing except our own struggles up here, let me suggest that, that for town council, developing a records retention plan needs to, be moved to the front of business. This is turning out to be a big problem. Okay. All right, let's go back to the minutes. We made a vote of approval. We are sort of, we do sort of work laterally. Okay, so we have a motion from Jim. All in favor for approval of minutes, say aye.
We need a second for that.
You did.
And he seconded it. Okay. Can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will make those minor corrections and they'll be on, the minutes will be accepted. Okay, so, our main thing this evening that we wanted to do was to talk about the work that Jim and Jeff are doing on economic development and some of the data that they're collecting and some of the ideas that they've developed. But before we do that, I want to just point out that once you have figured this out, that Bill Nelson is available to do mapping for us, and he will put together a cost estimate for you. And then I guess what we need to do is come to town council for a budget to pay for his services. So just so that that's on the record, is that we will be approaching town council for map creation services. I have no idea what stuff like that costs. He certainly has all the
We'll talk about it
technology.
Wednesday. We're gonna meet with him Wednesday.
Oh, yeah?
So
Okay,
we'll
good.
talk about it.
Data.
Talk about it at our work session coming up. There's a work session coming up in 2
2
weeks.
weeks.
And then it could go, if we have
Yeah.
some kind of figure, we can go to town council, but
Well, one thing, I mean, once he has a good base map, which shouldn't be very hard for him to do. We can just print that and just color it in.
Yeah.
For whatever people are working on different things,
okay,
you can just color it in and show what's going on. So if you're trying to locate businesses or vacant houses. We can just take highlighters, color it in, and then he can take that and make it into
okay, cool.
a decent map.
Yeah.
Cause he's not gonna do all that. He's not gonna, we don't want him to do all the like,
No,
it's gonna
no,
be too expensive.
no, we don't, but we're gonna have to, but the big question is to just sort of move it along and make sure that we've got somebody and then, you know, Cindy and I may wind up driving through town looking for derelict houses, and then we could put them on a map.
Could I add something? If the cost is under $5,000, the town manager can approve it.
Okay.
But would
Okay.
that
No.
be
That's all.
council?
I won't tell Bill that, but we'll ask it,
Just for your
unless he's
knowledge.
listening now. you know.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's see, we were also asked to look at something on the regarding zoning. That's sort of new business, so what I'd like to do is go ahead and talk about you know, the kind of what kind of progress is being made on the comp plan. And I asked Jeff and Paul to take the lead this evening and talk about what they are doing, okay, for thinking about business and economics in the community. So the one thing I will repeat is that we now are all on SharePoint. We've got it, we've all been invited. There is a SharePoint site set up for us, and it is possible to do editing on that. I just put something up. I had a hard time renaming it. So but that's just me figuring out the software, but it's easy to put stuff up. So,
Is this part of the VML Microsoft 365 SharePoint? We said we were gonna get access to that.
Yes.
And use that.
well, that is it not, Debbie? Is it the towns? It's the towns.
A town bought the software. didn't
Yeah,
they?
the town bought the software.
Alright.
It's not 365 that we use.
My biggest problem is I can't get to it on my computer.
Does
So,
that license
Debbie's-
extend to the end user then?
Whatever, who's what, it's just
It is Office
the
three
SharePoint,
sixty-five.
that's what I
Yes, I
thought.
believe it is too.
365 too, as part of our
Yeah.
licensures with
Yeah,
365.
licenses that it looks like we have, let me see real quick.
That the town has.
Well, no, that are assigned to our accounts, not that necessarily that the town has. It looks like there's the web version of Office is available.
So we
So
should
you
be,
can edit it in the web, yes.
you should be able to use it.
So connectivity is required.
Even throughout, right?
Yeah, and so.
Well, you can go to the link she sent, that'll take you right
Right
there.
to that, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I meant, yeah, because you sent us a link throughout that.
Copy of 2007. that I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
And you only have access to the folder that.
Right, we
that's
only have-
my issue.
Tell you that.
That's what I can't figure out to
What?
protect that.
We only have access to planning commission, right? Or no?
Oh, thank you, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so you
Great.
guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing and what Cindy's seeing? What's
No,
the
you're
problem?
seeing, you're seeing everything else that is on our network.
Oh.
Which is should be,
Just planning
Password,
commission, okay.
I just want to tell you the problem I'm having, and I wrote to Casey and Debbie Friday. I can't open my town email on our MacBook. And when I forwarded it to my address. And when I clicked it on the MacBook, it wanted my password. But I don't know what my password is, because when they set up my town email, they set it up whatever with a code, and now it just comes up. So I don't know how to open up that email on my Mac.
Can you bring your MacBook to the work session?
Yeah.
Next one, and I can help you.
Okay.
All right, sure. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah.
You can't open it on the phone, because I.
Well,
Well,
no,
something just brought
because
back an Outlook to me today,
I can do Outlook, but I
Yeah.
can't
yeah.
access the files on my
Ah.
computer. I can't use those files.
What it is in your MacBook? You don't have Office or anything like that
I have mail on my,
in your MacBook,
Yeah.
but you don't have any,
no.
You don't
No,
need the
that's-
office apps to do what we.
yeah.
I assume I can
Everybody
go,
has
I can
access to
go
the web.
online to access something, but I don't have a password. Because it does it automatically on my phone after 4 months of messing about with
Well,
the IT people, it finally worked.
You were supposed to set up an individual password, so you just don't remember your own password.
There we go. All right. I don't know about that.
Okay, well, we'll
I'll
get you
look back
set
at my
up, but
notes.
let's not
Yeah,
spend a lot.
but
of
anyway, I
time.
just, in case anyone else has this problem, I just wanted to bring it because it's, it's working with two hands tied behind my back.
Okay, well, I can't help you with this. Let's see if Debbie and Jeff can help you.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Okay, so what I want to do is turn over the meeting to Paul and Jeff to talk about this, what they're doing and what they're thinking about at this point. And then we'll throw the floor open for some conversation on it. Paul, do you want to?
Sure, I'll start. I should say, admit that, Jeff and I are like a very old married couple. We don't talk to each other much. And haven't been. What I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, in fact, is research. In fact, looking through academic papers and other papers about economic development and looking for additional data. What everybody but Fletcher has, and I can make sure you have it, Fletcher, is just a 2-page core dump of what I've started to do. And let me just back up and say this before I sort of let you read it, and we can go from there. But if anybody wants to join the Reading Rainbow, I can certainly send all of the papers and links to this rather large file of
What you're talking about?
of things that I've been reading that are sort of starting to inform what I'm doing. Two, something of significant interest, I think, to us as a town, in a paper that was written in '93 by some folks at Wisconsin-Madison in Kentucky, but sponsored out of Ames, Iowa, that there's something called a Riley index or a Riley coefficient. And why that's of interest to us is that we talk about what's our draw area. And we all know, we go online, we punch in Home Depot, and we get something in Gloucester. And so one of the questions we as a committee have had, and I know Jeff and I have sort of obliquely addressed on our way in and out with others, is that, what's our real draw area? And what's nice about the Riley coefficient or index is that it provides an index of distance for people in terms of who are your consumers in town before they go to the next biggest town. And so for example, if I punched in Virginia Beach, more than you need to know, but 455,000 were, 1,200. The distance is about 60 miles. And so it's really it's the formula, not that I would know this, is the population of the population of the smaller, the square root of it, plus 1, and you divide that into the distance between the larger and the smaller town. And what I got basically was that about 9 miles south of here, people are looking for Virginia Beach, not us. And when I punch in Exmoor, no, it's about Exmoor is when they tail off. And when I did Salisbury, it's about Parksley. And so I think that may not be perfectly correct, but it starts giving us some kind of grounding when we talk about how many millions of people will be coming here for our activities. We kind of can start thinking about what our real radius is. So I thought that was a nice piece of information to have. You're welcome to disagree. Go ahead.
Clarify. I'm trying to say is potentially the draw, someone who lived this side of Exmoor would be more inclined to come shop or do whatever their business is here. And if they live south of Exmoor, their inclination would be to go to the next one to town, which is Virginia Beach.
That's right. Same thing with Parksley for Salisbury.
Formula that. Okay.
So it may not be right,
No,
but at least it gives us something we can look at. So I thought that was interesting. And then of course that the county apparently is just contracted with someone to start their A&D,
With Berkeley.
right, to do their new comprehensive plan. So I'm still operating off the old one, but my attitude is that's fine. Things will change. We can go from there. So I just thought that little piece of information about the Riley coefficient was something to be considered. And then the rest of this is just the beginning of a core dump, rather than to look at it and say, well, what are our goals? The way I'm approaching this is I'm looking at instances and then I'll back them up into larger goals. So there's a little bit of text here that what I'm trying to do is to look at what we already have and then feed our plan into like the farmer's market. There's lots of research out there. Tulane for one, there are others that provide us with data of why that, and then community gardening would be a good idea. Wanting to anchor the B2 area down toward from Hill Street down toward Only as a second economic area and development area, and start to look at what we might want to think about doing in that that section and why, to look at things we might want to do in town in general. And here I'm going to say, I just created an objective that says attract companies to town with incentives and support to make an Hancock a more attractive, making Hancock more attractive for profit business location. So I think as we're thinking about economic development, that's certainly an objective that we might want to consider. And a second objective is to develop recreational and cultural, historical, regional opportunities to better serve local residents, visitors, and attract prospective residents and business owners. And that last one took me a long time to get to because I'm not very good at writing panchestrons. And a panchestron is something that's so self-referential as to be meaningless. And I think for many of the objectives that I read in plans, they're Panchestrons. But I think that does allow us to start looking at the legs of what Casey outlined in terms of natural resources, tourism, right, stewardship, development, and to start looking at things we may elect to do and sort through them and then start consolidating them into both the areas that we have and the objectives as we write them. So that's what I've done for the last 2 weeks.
This is not data per se, this is a set of all kinds of recommendations based on the research you've been doing. Is that
Right,
what we're seeing?
right. And I'm not even done. But you can see that we did it for community development and support, business development, town in general, tourism, if you flip it over, land use, harbor, parks and green space, water tourism, the arts. There's just an immense amount of research out there and data out, research out there on these areas that I'm just sort of culling through to see what would be useful for us. And so then the data, I'm sure we can find. I'm not worried about that.
Okay, so at this point, but we don't necessarily have any data, you have not collected any data on what this sort of or what economic data is available on the town at present.
I've looked at the Weldon Center, right? I mean, in Virginia, but no, I have not gone to look specifically. And I don't hold a lot of hope for that.
Okay,
Because last time, if you remember in the strategic, the comprehensive plan, economic development, and let me quote it to you, I'm done. That I think that included in what I'm doing is a mechanism for gathering data as an annual and forming ourselves annually on how we're doing. I think we're going to have to bootstrap our own data, Madam Chairman. Well,
I know it's getting a little bit old now, but
it's
there.
and I think marketing is great, and marketing is a component, but I think I'm looking a little more comprehensively than that. And I do look at Main Street. So the simple answer is yes, but I'm really looking a little more comprehensively on what we might want to do with the town, expecting you folks to rein me in. Right?
Okay.
We'll go through it and
Okay.
parse it.
Just to kind of clarify what it is that you gave to us.
Sure.
These handouts. So, you were going through this first front and back was basically,
It's coordinated.
how you're looking at it. Right. This is like a quick reference sheet back to the code.
For zoning.
You're right.
Casey asked me about,
Okay, so
and so,
this just kind of gives us a quick sheet for reference back to the zoning code. That's
right. And what
Okay,
it does is what I specifically was interested in is what's allowed in B1 versus B2 versus waterfront, right?
You just printed it out for us, so we've got it.
So we all have the same document
There you
and
go.
we don't have to worry about the computers working or not working. Somebody else can worry about the 35-foot height. It's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in what are appropriate uses. Because as Jeff and I work through this, and if we make suggestions, we have to think, where does it belong? Right? And how does it, and economic development, and I'll stop now, includes really community development. So when I briefly went through community gardening, finding a place for community gardening in a town, which then supports the farmers market that we already have. But that also helps reduce food insecurity. There's an InView, according to Penn, or not Penn, but a Philadelphia study, that there's a U-shaped relationship between community gardening and community in underrepresented populations, community dissatisfaction and violence. So by having a community garden for individuals to raise their own crops. It works to the health of the community, the social binding and health of the community. That's the stuff, those are the kinds of arguments that I'm looking for.
Okay,
All right.
If that helps any.
okay. Yeah, because there's just a really lot of stuff in here and the question is, you know, what is it actually? I mean, you've got really specific recommendation, a bunch of.
Oh,
really specific
absolutely.
Recommendations here.
And there'll be more. What I was just trying to do was to provide evidence that I wasn't out drinking beer for the last 2 weeks and doing nothing.
So I've got one sheet. Is this what you're talking about, Casey?
Yes,
Yeah.
one's
Is there
two
another
sides.
sheet with,
No, second side.
No, it's just two sides.
like, two sides?
And then there's code.
Right, okay,
That's it.
yeah.
Pertinent facts,
Sure,
under business development and support,
sure.
co-locate soccer field to the current Little League field area. The Little League field is leased to the organization that runs that.
I'm aware that there are currently restraints. My question is, I'm just opening it up. You know, it's not for me to dictate what we do. My job is to create possibilities. And in fact, just so you know, I don't even know, not that I would have looked at the GIS stuff from the county and used the mapping measurement tool. If a soccer field is 120 feet, 120 yards long and roughly 60 yards wide, it's not entirely clear to me that there's enough room there to have a soccer field. But because we have an existing lease, it doesn't mean we don't approach them if that's what we decide to do.
It would be nice to know the length of the lease. I mean, I believe that it's another one of those very long leases.
Very well could be, but the trick is, it doesn't mean we don't try to work with them if it's something that we want to do, or find out if we can work with them.
Right, or even if it's a good idea, I kind of like where it is,
As a matter
the
of
soccer fields. So, you know, I see no reason to move them other than you think we ought to make it a proposition.
well, and I'm also trying to look at the business two district and think, okay, who knows when Carbot will do whatever. But, but, you know, there are businesses down there and it doesn't seem like we pay a lot of attention to them. So one way to do that would be to say, well, okay, what goes on in town that seems to attract people? If we co-locate it with other sports areas, there is some research out there, not professional teams, but community teams in Australia and Canada that seems to suggest that there's an economic benefit to the businesses in those areas if you collate community teams. And that's all I'm thinking is, well, here's a reason why we might want to try it. We may not want to try it. I have no emotional investment.
Well, I will look forward to your write-up and
Me too,
what you're gonna propose.
me too. Sure,
On town in general, number one, under your objective, provide free broadband to locally owned for-profit export. I'm not sure what that means.
there's a footnote at the bottom of the page.
Okay. And non-export businesses in the traditional historic Market Street downtown and eastern Annapolis business area. I'm a little mystified by this one because businesses need secure connections, which typically public broadband is not.
I think you can VPN it, can't you?
Well,
that?
How would
no.
a free broadband
Yeah.
blanketing the downtown area help the businesses if they need secure connections?
Yeah, I mean, you would probably want to do it individual. As
Okay,
a business owner, I would want to have my own connection.
Yes.
But I mean, in either case, all that connection is given you is internet access, so it's up to you to secure what you need anyway. Even if you go out and get it yourself, it's still just providing you an internet. So it's on you to figure out what security you need and how to do that.
this is,
So
thank you.
you think it would be a benefit to the businesses to have that available?
Well, I mean. I think. my feeling is on Ancock right now is very business friendly. You know what I mean? There's no real taxes for businesses except for the meals tax. So. And that's been in place for a while. So if we're not attracting businesses as a business friendly place already, then yes, we need to come up with what are the other things that we need to do to attract those businesses. On the flip side, we need to figure out how do we grow and be able to have businesses, have business for those businesses to maintain them here. I mean, you can see, I've only been here 3-4 years, and you can see the merry-go-round of businesses that come and go. And so, some of it may be the type of businesses, the ownership of the business, how they're run. But I think it's also the lack of a steady client base for those businesses to keep them around. So I think not only do we want to bring business here, but we've got to figure out how do we make sure that they can survive here.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm also working off the research, which says if you want to attract, small entrepreneurs or small businesses that ready access to the web is, that's a precursor. So when I'm thinking about this, and that's why I said it's a very broad charge. I'm looking at, infrastructure requirements. Also, right?
Look, I think what you want to address is, but what would be very, very beneficial is broadband access to a much wider
I
area.
have no,
If work on that first before you worry about what's free, just get access to people, broadband on a much wider area, Yeah, yeah.
sure.
But one of the issues is, for example, if you decide you want to create a co-working space, then, having free Wi-Fi might be an important thing to have, right? Or if you're going to want to support some kind of economic business development or some kind of, a sort of nursery for businesses, like maybe working with a community college or something like that, you're gonna wanna have free web access.
I'm curious, what is the whole town wired for broadband? I don't think so. No,
Fletcher's the whole town?
the whole town. The whole town.
Actually, 2 providers here. I mean,
Providers.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, you're right. Yeah, internet's not a problem here.
Yeah, right here in town.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about if you get out in the county a little bit? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole, right, but here in town.
Very good cell towers. We have the.
Yeah.
So, so it strikes me that, that back when you were talking about the Riley coefficient, that actually you were on to something that maybe Jeff can address, and I know that the Main Street presentation talked about this, is that they were figuring out how many miles people, who comes to Onancock now, right? Which is actually a good measure, I think, of who will come
Right.
in the future. And do you remember this, Jeff? They were talking about what, a 50-mile radius
I
or?
don't remember the radiuses, but I mean, we can get that information.
Yeah, could
So-
we get that information? Because I also think that what's happened is that tourism has become this sort of abstract thing where it's like, we'll do all this stuff and we'll jump up and down and wave flags and they're gonna show up, but we don't really know what our area is for what's viable for a day tripper, right? Which is what we're mostly gonna have, I think, because we don't have a lot of accommodations, we don't have a beach.
That's in Main Street study. They have
Okay.
the areas that people are coming
So
to.
that's what we need to get a look at that. We need to look at that data clearly.
I have some additional data. I have the Eastern Shore of Virginia Tourism Strategic Plan from last year that has some information in there. I have a couple of things that I found online about, they did some market studies when they were looking at that development over there. What was that place called? Behind the Food Line.
Behind Food Lion.
Coastal Square. So they did some market research there and put it out as well, just from a potential tenant perspective. So I mean, there is some information that we can get, but yeah, doing some of the market study stuff is pretty tough. You know what I mean? And I think The tourism, yes, there's a lot of information on it, but it's a matter of, one of the nice things about Onancock, it's year round. It's not like a
Right.
Chincoteague,
Right.
Cape Charles, but you've gotta have that base to be able to support, businesses.
Year-round businesses.
Yeah, year-round
Well, I
businesses.
think we actually have a base that supports year-round businesses, but it's not downtown, right? Is that what you've got is you actually have, although people complain about it being ugly, you have a viable service core that's sitting out,
A mile away.
B2, right? It's B2. And it's a viable service core that probably actually brings more income into the town than, we don't know for sure, but I would bet that in terms of steady income, it is more effective than the historic downtown, because you've got Verizon, you've got the office supply store, you've got a couple of restaurants there, but you've got multiple garages and a bunch of services, home patients there, right? That there's No Limits has an office there, right? So what's happened, the exterminators there and the gas pumps. So what you've got is there's actually two business cores. And the one that's probably actually doing better is B2. It's not B1, it's B2. B2 also includes African-American hairdressing
Right.
companies, groups. There's a catering thing in there. If you stop and really look at it, there are some vacant buildings that are a problem, but but on the other hand, you've actually got a viable economic unit sitting there, but what I kept hearing from people talking to me is that they don't like it because it's ugly. Well, but it's the most viable part of the town, I think.
Well, no, I mean, that's a
I
good
don't
point.
think
If
we
you
have
look
any
at-
data that says that.
Right, well,
I
but
mean,
it-
that's a guess.
No, but one of the things you
It's a
look
pretty
at is
good
you look at
guess.
the two strip malls up there, right, as you get to 13, they're both completely occupied.
Yep,
And when a store closes there, another one comes right
Right.
in.
that's right.
So, you know what I mean? And the other thing that, and we've talked about it here downtown, is we've got all these vacant buildings. But a lot of those buildings, the owners don't wanna do anything with them. And so that's another piece of the puzzle too, is you can't force them to do anything. Well, I mean, eventually you could, hey, you tax them if it stays empty for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time or something like that, but if they're not gonna do anything with the building, then, you can't do anything with it. And even in the B2, there's a lot of empty buildings as
Yeah,
well.
there are.
So, I mean, that's another area that, we need to look at. I know Main Street's looking at that as part of the,
And I think there was some
Open
Main
for
Street
business.
data that I remember that said that most of the customers for the businesses would come from a 30-mile radius.
Yeah, I remember that it was 30 or 50. I
Yeah.
remembered that.
Yeah.
Something just occurred to me, if you wanted to have sort of direct economic impact, there must be some way to track taxes that have been paid. Right?
Well,
And-
by the business?
Or, yeah, right, in an area, right? Of
Thank
course
you.
there is. I mean, I'm saying it must be, of course there is, or there better be. But if you want to know, go back and see which parts of town have been putting the most tax income back into the city, into the town. The businesses, yeah.
That doable, Debbie?
No, because we don't, are you talking about?
the only thing.
If we wanted to know what a business had paid in taxes over the last 10 years,
Sales tax.
well, yeah, whatever taxes the town collects, we couldn't do that.
For the business license. Because
Mm.
they have to present,
Town used to do that and doesn't anymore, which is
Yeah.
great,
but it's just.
Ah.
but there's no way, yeah,
It
there's
may
a
be
flat
not
fee.
either.
The only thing that the town sees is
So-
Couldn't share that.
the meals tax.
Oh, okay.
Neither, that's proprietary for.
Yeah.
Is it?
And the meals.
Right,
tax-
Tax isn't.
but-
It was.
What he's actually saying is the town actually doesn't really collect taxes from business other than a license fee and whatnot. So if a business does extremely well, the town doesn't then benefit from in any way from their increased revenue.
Still, this for the town. You get some of that.
Okay, there's sales tax. Okay,
What the percentage, could be- it's not divided up among B1, B2 or.
Right.
right, okay,
But,
interesting.
and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
what I was saying is that because the town does not tax on grocery receipts or anything like that, it's a very favorable location to open a business.
Yes.
So, but you're absolutely right, you know, how much the town's missing out on that revenue, but are they getting revenue with other ways? You know what I mean? People spending money in the restaurant, there's a meals tax the town gets. Or, or just spending time here and spending money obviously benefits the town, not necessarily the town government. So, I mean,
Yeah,
there's two different pieces you're looking at there.
Yes.
And if you can get it granularly enough by time, then you can assess the efficacy of the programs or festivals or what have you that you sponsor and
Yeah.
engage in.
Well, you know,
You get this measure that comes from the Chamber of Commerce, and I don't trust those measures. I think those economic impact studies, and their measures are, wildly optimistic for what
You know-
the actual outcome is from things like having all the bicyclists come through town. Yeah, they came right through and they went out the other end, and some of them bought lunch, and they talked about how cute the town was, but I don't think they spend any money. And so what happens is that there are these formula that we've tended to use because they're out there, but I don't really trust them. And I certainly don't trust the economic impact figures, and I think that applies not just to here on the shore, but other places too. I think a lot of times they're wildly inflated, and there are political reasons that happens. So.
I would say then for, what our purpose is here is, a comprehensive plan. And look, if we're gonna try and, suggest that perhaps an economic engine of the town is, up in B2 as opposed to B1, I think we should understand that there will always be an anecdotal opinion, it may appear they be that way, but I don't think we're ever gonna get data that's gonna tell us that. And I'm not sure we should even try necessarily, I don't know, so
That we have.
I agree. Rely on the data we have. That's,
That's what we have.
Yeah, but I also think that, use what you have, but also acknowledge it's like the American Community Surveys data. Use what you got, but acknowledge its problems is what you have to do with this. And like I said, there's vacant buildings up there, there's vacant buildings down there, and the fact of the matter is that we don't really know what the motivations are. Well, anecdotally, we know some of the motivations down here, but we don't really know necessarily why some of them are vacant. And some of them that are quote vacant are actually being used, like the one building on the corner of, I guess it's Hill and Market, is a Pentecostal church on Sunday. And there it is. I mean, they rented the space, it's in use, but it's in use once a week. And they don't have a sign out front. It's a Haitian Pentecostal church. And so to us, it may not look like the best. Did you want to add something, Deb?
No, I'm being asked for you to.
Your microphone.
Oh, okay. So it could be, have I got it on? Yeah.
There it is. Is that there, that there are buildings that are in use, but they're in use in non-traditional ways, right? They're being used in a way that we can't. And actually that building on the upstairs in the back is a thriving beauty salon.
Mhm.
So, what happens is that stuff is invisible. And it isn't necessarily painted or, cute, right? It doesn't look nice, but there's actually some kind of activity going on.
Well, one thing I think you could do is look at the businesses that are doing well
Yes.
Mhm.
and ask them, why, what do they think is the reason they're doing well? Is their food good? Do they have, where their people come from,
Are their cocktails large and strong?
well, and also, in spite of, you know, there has been a fair amount of churn over the last year, 18 months, but on the other hand, you know, it appears that though someone's doing the old Red Queen building, something's going to happen. There's a lot of stuff going on in the old drugstore finally after all these years. Apparently, whatever it is in Moss is actually doing quite well, to the point of his sisters come to invest and open a business in town. So something
Yeah.
is making people want to come here.
But
I mean,
it would
I
be
think
good.
that's a strong invent that people, you know.
It would be good to talk to these people.
Exactly.
Why,
Exactly.
did
Why
did
are
you
they
come
here?
What made you think this was a good place to open a business?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And what else would it make it better? You know, simple questions. And, you know, people will talk, they'll say things.
Mhm. Well, I do think that in terms of thinking about both districts, that we need to think about them as being distinct,
Yeah.
right? As being distinct. And the outer business district, B2, is certain kinds of services that the community needs to be a viable town. And that what you want to do is figure out how to strengthen that. I mean, God knows the laundromat that guy's making $1 million, and look, he's got a clothing store and a restaurant and a deli attached to the laundromat. So, you know,
Captive audience.
well, you wouldn't believe what it's like on the weekends. I went in there
No.
and it's wild. It's a whole social scene. It's a social scene there. And so, you know, that's attracting a particular population that's not necessarily going to be served by downtown. Okay, so the other thing is you've got a service center, a service area in B2. It's largely services and not merchandise, but it serves a distinct population that's not necessarily going to come downtown. And so we just need to, I think, sort of acknowledge that. But they're both valuable parts of the community. So what can we do to make that help that neighborhood stay strong too?
Hopefully that'll be all part of our
Yeah.
cohesive plan.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't like to see it segregated, because I think the more we can talk about the town as a whole, the better plan we can have. And
Right.
certainly we want to bring people together versus say this section needs to do that and this section needs to do this.
I do think they serve different functions though, so we need to sort of be aware of that and that
We
those,
need to include all of it. Yeah.
oh yeah, but we have to acknowledge, I think, that those sections are going to serve two different audiences primarily.
And the population of the greater Anacog area along Market Street will be anchored with the new development whenever that happens. So that as we look at our plan, that I think we need to anticipate changes in the base at the same time.
Yeah,
And so that makes that B2 area even more valuable or more worth attention.
yeah. Jeff, what are you thinking about all this at this point? I mean, I think you're right. It's a very business-friendly environment. You know, what kinds of incentives might be used for B1, right, for downtown? Seems like there is some stuff going on, but there remain some difficulties.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough in terms of incentives, because I know, you know, the towns don't have a whole lot of extra revenue around, so it's
Yeah.
tough in terms of incentives. So I think we need to look at creative ways, you know what I mean, in terms of, you know, one of the things that I think we looked at Main Street was there was a program another small town did with the community college, where they had entrepreneurs come through and they would give them space to, you know, for a certain amount of time to start a business in the town. You know, and they had to commit to a certain period of time. So that kind of give you, you know, some type of inroads. I mean, I think the other thing to do, and I think Paul alluded to it, is you know, kind of look at what types of businesses people's are asking for. And that was in some of the Main Street market surveys. And then figure out how to recruit those businesses. You know, hey, is there a business up the road that, you know, does the same thing, and say, hey, how, you know, could we bring them down here to say, open up another location or something like that? So I think, you know, you just got to get a little bit more creative in terms of how you attract those businesses.
Do you think that the problem of vacant buildings, that the town should try to address that more aggressively in terms of, for example, a place that, and this also applies to derelict houses, that, you know, it's vacant for a certain period of time, your taxes go up, or there's some kind of fine, or, you know, that there's some kind of I mean, we can sweet talk them, but do we need some sticks too? Does the town need to have some sticks?
I think at some point you need to, if someone doesn't want to do anything with the building, you know, there's got to be some action there, and I don't know what that would be, but it's, you know, you want to see a building sitting vacant for 10 years?
Yep.
No, but do we have a lot of buildings that could be rented already? Yes, so it's, you want to go and, you know, take a stick to someone when there's another building that's available that somebody potentially does want to rent.
Mhm.
But I will tell you, if you look, you know, I think I mentioned this before, is, you know, I don't know how many buildings are vacant right now, and you go look at MLS, and there's one or two, oops, sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
And there's one or two that are, you know, actually out there for rent.
Right.
There may be a couple more that someone has put a piece of paper on the door that
Yeah.
says for rent, but that's it. So it's, you know, it's tough, you know, if you're looking for an opportunity as a business owner, you know, I think you're gonna look differently than that to begin with. Someone's not gonna get on the internet and say, hey, I want to go look at Onancock and find a building to lease. So I think, you know, coming back to finding creative ways.
Mhm.
I think there was another, we looked at this at Main Street too. There was a town down in where is it, down in the Norfolk area or something, where they actually went out and put together a brochure of what types of businesses the town residents were looking for, and kind of marketed that to other businesses, you know, within the area and things like that. So to provide some exposure and, you know, get some direct marketing out there as well. So I think it's because I feel that the town is already a very favorable place for businesses. You gotta think outside the box here.
Yeah.
The literature, it's invest versus subsidize.
Mhm.
We already subsidize. The incentives are already there.
Right.
We need to invest. And then to circle back to Cynthia's question about export, there's also non-export. Export brings money in from other places. That's tourism, right? And regionalism. The non-export businesses are the businesses that when we had the community gatherings and people talked about, we want to be able to take it back to what it was. They're businesses that support the local community itself and make that, the local community, a vital community in-house, if you will. And that's, so when we think about portfolios of businesses to market to or approach, that they're both to bring money in, and then businesses that would create complementarity effects, right? You know? And so, you know, I think that's the town council's job, I think.
Well, these are all things that we can, you know, once we can make we will make recommendations on in
You know, that's
time.
why it's so bizarrely specific. It's just like core dump, let's then work our way up to the large issues.
So,
If I could mention about what Jeff was talking about.
Yeah.
Part of the Open for Business project that Main Street is doing now would involve creating a database of vacant buildings and trying to market them.
So is that better for Main Street to do, or should the town be doing that?
I don't think the town has the resources to do it.
Well, no, I know that they don't, but ought they?
Well, they can do it in partnership with Main Street. And
That's fine.
Main Street has a great name recognition. I mean, people know what Main Street is,
Well, I understand
you
that.
know.
Let me put it this way.
We're also using I mean, the other thing is we're using grant money for that, so it's not town money that's needed.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I
I
think there is a match from the
There's a
town.
town match.
There's a town match, but still, yeah.
No one has suggested that the town is dying to do this.
Well, no, I understand that too. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, if we allocate the responsibility out, does that make it more difficult for us to actually get it done?
I don't think
Oh,
so
you
at
mean,
all.
so if you give it to Main Street rather than the town taking a role in it, does it make it more difficult to get it
More of a
done?
primary, yes.
Yeah,
I don't think so in any way.
I don't
think,
either.
I think it would actually move quicker.
Yes,
They'll move quicker.
I'm all for it. I just,
and we can
Mhm.
put it in as a collaboration.
Yeah.
It's planning.
we should be collaborating with
Totally.
the county, with everybody.
well, it's interesting because, if you're open for business as a database of vacant buildings, is it going to include outside the Main Street area? Because there are substantial vacant buildings outside the Main Street area, some of which are quite modern.
And I don't know if they got special permission for that or not. Normally, anything that comes exactly to Main Street has to be spent in the Main.
In the Main Street district.
Yeah.
See, I'm just feeling like that is a problem. That
Ca-
Main Street's focus is a problem.
Casey, to answer your question, if you look at the thing that Jim with his maps, one of the things that we'll be doing in the mapping is going around town and marking all these vacant properties. So that's going to be taken
Right,
care of
right.
through the mapping process.
Right, it is, but what
You know,
I'm
outside of
saying
the Main
is,
Street, so, you know.
is that, if you're doing a database of vacant buildings,
Yeah, well.
then I don't think it can be a Main Street project because Main Street's cut itself off from B2. Right?
The goal of Main Street is to preserve and revitalize historic
Downtowns,
And so
right.
that's the whole thrust of their funding.
right,
We use that as we can and then use the tourism money to market everybody in the whole
As a
town.
whole, yeah.
right. No, I know that, but what that means is that mapping and stuff like that isn't, and if open for business is a database of vacant buildings, it probably ought to include B2.
I'll check and
Yeah,
ask.
even though it's
I don't-
outside the,
I don't see any problem in incorporating the two and creating the map that you want.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any.
Because I just
Yeah.
think it has to be both. I mean, what was really
Yeah.
clear to me was that a number of the citizens who came to the thing we're talking about, the core of historic downtown doesn't have anything I want, right? That they go out to the highway now because the core doesn't, doesn't have what I want. So that's an interesting problem. I mean, do you try to go after some of those people? Do you try to figure out what would get them to spend money within the town limits? I mean, that's, I'm just asking this in general, and I'm just saying that I know, believe me, I know what the Main Street program is supposed to do, but in this case, given the fact that there are two business districts and both of which have vacant buildings, but which serve really different functions, that for example, if you guys cut yourself off from Chris's building that was the health food store is outside the historic district, but it's probably one of the better buildings to attract someone to buy and make into a store. Not at the current price, I know, not at the current price.
It's also, I mean, it's a really unusual property to me. I mean, I wouldn't think the buyer pool is that large for it.
Right, but if it winds up not being listed on available buildings on Main Street, on the Main Street map, then what's happening is and also that modern building, the one that, is a mystery to me that never seems to have anybody in it, right? Or they open a store and then it goes away. There was a framer and then that went away. And then there was I think a consignment clothing store maybe, and then that went away. That's actually one of the more modern spaces in town, and it struck me that it was a service, less of a retail space and more of other kinds of services, lawyer,
Yeah.
et cetera, lawyers, other kinds of services.
At
That,
one point, the town had all the town businesses on the website, right, Debbie?
I don't know.
You
They were
remember?
on the old website. I don't know if they're on the new one.
They were imported to the new one, whether that changed, I don't know. I think so too, but I only see visitors. I don't see businesses on my phone. Oh, business resources. Let me try this. Town services, buildings.
There is an interactive map, a tree walk, historic homes, an Hancock businesses, and then when you click on the Hancock businesses, that's when you get it.
okay, that's
so
probably
there
out of
is-
date, and it's probably out of date.
And that's the problem with
Yeah.
limited town staff, keeping things like that
Right.
updated is difficult.
No, that's true.
I agree.
But I was just gonna say, there is another place. I don't like duplications and I don't think that they should be duplicated, but it is a possibility.
And then there's also a bubble for Hancock Main Street, and when you go to that, that's experience in Hancock, it basically just links you to that, which I do think is probably more up to date. Cause Maggie does this one, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. An experience in Hancock has stay, food and drink, shop,
Mm-hmm.
gallery.
Well, people can't get to Main Street without driving through B2 district.
Right.
So,
That's right.
you know, they're going to support each other. And I think in the comprehensive plan, we could talk about economic development, we talk about all the businesses in town. And then we talk about Main Street.
Yeah,
It's a special program. It needs to be documented. And, you know, it's our job to do it all.
right.
You know,
Right.
they have a limited scope, but, you know, we can integrate everything into the.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
they're very
That's
Good.
exactly.
and laudable.
We-
what they do.
We are not at odds
No, no,
at all.
I just,
Not at all. Good.
But I
No.
do think it's a large resource
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
is available.
Yes.
And-
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
also, since I started this whole mess with the core dump, that economic development is not just business development.
I've lost track of our table of contents. I don't have it with me. I was trying to, when I saw that, talking about other things than businesses,
There you go. Pass it back.
I couldn't remember what all our sections
this
were.
was caring for our economic development, capital improvement plan, thoughtful approach to tourism. But we had decided to put housing up there, right? Housing had moved up to this.
Caring for neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Okay.
caring for our neighborhoods and business districts.
But wouldn't cultural, historic, regional opportunities be in healthy, vibrant community or no?
Well, I think we've got that, arts and culture, recreation parks, stuff like that. But the revision that we made, I mean, I can bring it up because I did it, but is that the one thing that we revised was I had put housing up here and preparing for thoughtful development. And what happened was this will be the last section. I will put up the revised table of
Okay.
contents on the SharePoint.
I guess what I'm really asking is this economic development? Or does this go in a different grouping in our table of contents?
I think he's got he sees economic development extremely broadly.
Okay.
He's looking at it as, you know, all the things that make a healthy town will lead to economic development. But for organizational purposes in the table of contents, I think we want to distinguish some of these things. But what we could say is that we believe that creating a healthy town and a healthy economy involves all these things. Like it involves a tree board, for God's sake. I mean, we're a tree city, and everybody I've ever had come visit me says, I love all the beautiful trees here. So, okay, well, we need to make sure that, you know, we help people plant new trees.
And so
Right.
the economic development part of it should support Greg's interest in the water and the, if we have trails, the main streets, interest in the downtown area. It's not, I was just concerned that it becomes this really, people think about just business acquisition. And it should support the whole town so that we're
Well,
a
I think,
vibrant, and we are.
I agree, but I think for the purposes of developing, I mean, that's an organizational issue in the table, and it's an organizational issue. So,
This is so early
yeah,
that I wouldn't spend a lot of time worried about that casing.
okay. So, what happened was, I will tell you that housing did move to caring for our neighborhoods and business districts. So housing is there now. And that on top of that, the preparing for thoughtful development has gone to be the last thing that Jim McGowan asked that go down there. So there is a new table of contents. I've got it. I haven't put it up on SharePoint yet, but I will stick it up on SharePoint. Okay. I did put up today, like I said, I'm having trouble renaming the file, but I did put up the vision statement and the process of getting to it today. So, yeah, what we have with Paul here is a giant brainstorm. And so the question is, is that where some of this stuff, if we decide to go with it, where it belongs for organizational purposes.
And one of the other responsibilities I have is to give you one or two clear citations to why I would even include it, right? It's like there's the Tulane study and community gardening and open space and the economic benefit of that. There are other studies about, there are other studies on other topics. And so then it's my job. I'm not worried about the data. I mean, I think we're going to develop data over time, but these are kind of the theoretical and practical reasons why we'd include these in our plan if we decide to. And if it's not a persuasive argument, we keep it or we eliminate it. And I have no emotional investment.
Okay. All right. Well, Paul, did you want to, let's see, or Jeff, is there anything else that you want to add to this? Jeff, what are you thinking with this? Okay. All right. So it seems like one of the things that I thought that Lisa had sent me the study and in fact, as an attachment, but in fact, she sent me it as something that wouldn't open. Okay, so let's get that so that we have that data to look at. Okay. But I do think what's happened is it's raised some interesting, important issues. And, one of the things is that it's pretty clear that there is a significant distinction between many of the businesses that serve local people and many of the businesses that serve visitors who are tourists, right? That those are, in many respects, two distinct markets with the possible exception of some of the restaurants. But no, really, I mean, people are telling me I come down here to buy a birthday present once a year, right? Some of these businesses are really directed at our total discretionary spending, right? And so that's the other issue is that it's turning out that Main Street is supporting discretionary spending and it might support more services. We've got we've got the real estate places and we've got a hairdresser, but it could be that other services would bring more local people into the downtown.
Requested business was an ice cream shop downtown.
Yeah,
And we thought that Mary was going to open it. Elon's ex-wife.
yep,
Was going to open one across the street. in
yes.
that
What
space.
happened with that?
She's moved to Virginia Beach, so.
Right.
Unfortunately, the ice cream shop seems to be gone for the time being.
We've had many.
So I'm just wondering whether they just Cause I had been told they were experimenting with flavors and doing this and doing that, but now what's happened is that, okay,
For personal reasons.
for personal reasons, it's
It
not.
seems to have
And
gone
that's
down
one
the
of the
tubes.
problems. The people who open these businesses are older and they don't stay long. you know.
Well, Elon and his wife, it wasn't that they were older, it was that their marriage broke up,
What's that?
Yeah,
It's not an
He was
age thing
home.
there. It was
Okay.
something else.
yeah, it was something else.
That seems like a lot of the businesses are opened by older people.
Yes.
They
Well,
may or may not stay for
I-
10 years.
These discretionary spending businesses have a lifespan. You know, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, even in Virginia Beach, where there are some people who've been there for a long time and they're gonna want to get rid of, they're not gonna want to keep doing those businesses, not Virginia
Right.
Beach, but Cape Charles. So, I mean, businesses, you know, a multi-generational business is a rare thing, is rare.
Right.
So,
But if someone starts a business as a younger person, if they can, they're likely to stick with it if
Right.
it's successful.
right,
for 20, 30 years. Someone who retires here and opens a business may, they may make it 10 years. And if they're
But it-
lucky, someone will take it over when they're done.
Well, that's the key. Is
Yeah.
it a successful business? You look at the Blarney Stone, it was successful, sold to another owner, and it's still successful. So it's, even if you're older, there's still an opportunity. If
Yeah.
it's a good business
Yeah, I'm
and
not
it's
saying-
successful and there's a demand for it, then
Yeah.
I think it can stick around.
It's a mere change in ownership,
Absolutely.
and that's, we don't care about,
Absolutely.
as long as the business stays. And that's just to jump on that for a second, not that you need to know, but I went back through the Anacog High School
Mhm.
yearbooks to look at the businesses that were here in 1960, to try and think about all those people in those meetings said they wanted it to return to what, an earlier.
Yeah, what they
Hancock.
wanted it to be.
And so I'm trying to figure out, well, what was here, and it's, so much of it is just a completely different economic universe.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think anyone wanted to return to that. They want to maintain what's here is what I heard, but they don't think they want to go back to how it was in the
Well,
60s.
it hurt.
I don't think so.
There's no need for a radio hospital. As a business, there were, I think, two, it was an automobile dealership, right? And, we just looked
A
at the
large
trend.
hardware store. I mean,
Yep.
those days are gone by.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but for me, from my point of view, looking at economic development in a really kind of a global umbrella, I'm trying to figure out what businesses used to exist, what complementarity effects would be between them to support each other and to bring others in. So I come for a cup of coffee, I buy a screwdriver at House of Deals, kind of thing, right? To try and think about that so that we can use what Jeff was talking about in looking at targeted investment in businesses, soliciting businesses, and that's in the literature, soliciting businesses in a very targeted way to come into town and then supporting them for X amount of time.
Okay, all
That's
right.
Also embedded in everything that I said there
We
too.
need a Hancock venture capital pool that will.
Well, theoretically,
Well, I mean, it's-
theoretically, if the Economic
Yeah.
Development Authority
That's
was
what I was gonna
working,
say.
It's not necessarily a venture capital pool. The town needs some sort of catalyst.
Right,
yeah,
That has not happened.
right.
So if you go online and read about Easton up in Maryland and what
Oh,
happened
yeah.
to them over the last few years, they had a catalyst there. Someone came in and decided to open up several restaurants, and it's a different town than on Hancock, but it's an interesting story as to what happened overall to that entire town because of that event that happened, that catalyst that happened.
It was
So,
doing
Yeah.
very well to begin with,
yeah,
you know,
but still. it's just-
mainly because of the waterfront development around it. I mean, it's, that's the watering hole for that whole area.
Yeah.
Yes. We're the
Yeah.
watering hole for whatever, the 15, 20-mile radius. So
And,
that's
and
what we need to focus on.
yeah,
How do you get those people to come into town and spend money?
okay.
sustainably.
Okay, so that's another thing we have that, and it strikes me that one of the things you just said is that that's theoretically where the Economic Development Authority
Yep,
should be active.
Yep.
That they could be a catalyst if they, you know, if they reached anything approaching their potential. Because right now, I mean, they're the weak sister in the whole system, I think, of all these committees and things like that.
Main Street has money for, the beautification and stuff, right? I mean, economic development, if the town doesn't have money, and I'm sure we're gonna hear, we don't have money, even though,
Yeah,
we do tap into excess reserves when we want to. Economic development has to be a way, that authority has to be a way for us to find money so that we can accomplish what we have to accomplish. Because we can't do this for free.
right.
And to even think about we being able to do this for free is nonsensical.
So the question is, can the Economic Development Authority be beefed up, made more functional, made more aggressive in terms of looking for, they've got money trickling in from the mortgage, but what might they be able to access, looking at other small communities, economic development authorities and how they operate?
What does the Department of Agriculture have? It might be beneficial.
Well, there's actually, the state last year in its budget set aside a lot of money for rural development, a lot of money. And someone's got to be able to tap into it. And the question is who? So,
Did the Economic Development Authority do a presentation at the Planning Commission?
no, they
Yeah,
they did
yes.
not, because they've been in such
I
turmoil.
would suggest we get them to come in and talk about
Okay, well, let's see if we
what their
can,
authority is, what their, what the opportunities are, and ask them for a blurb. And that reminds me, we asked the Main Street people for a blurb about their program. Did they ever provide that?
well, it turned out Lisa sent me what was supposed to be some attachments, and none of them were actual attachments that
All right, well, it
were
doesn't
opened up,
much.
and I just looked at them. So what we've got to do is just get that stuff
just be
again. Can you
third
provide
page.
that, Jeff?
I can ask her what she provided you and get it.
Yeah, I think it was a summary of the study and then yes, whatever documents you have relating to some of your surveys and things like that. But I went back to look at it because I said, okay, I got it. And then I didn't try to open it right away. And then I went back to it and I went, oh crap, it doesn't open. So it's not actually a real attachment.
Well, everybody is using their whatever software.
I know. I
know.
We
know.
need a common language. It's like battle. It really is to me. I'm used to being in organizations that have a clear IT system with support and software that everybody uses and training to learn how to use it. And right now, we're all over the place,
Well,
which brings up one other pet peeve. How do we have internet access in this way? Because when I tried to return an email thanking Debbie for the link she sent me, it took forever to come up and go out. Is there an internet password for this room that we?
no,
can
I've been able to use it for all kinds of things. I don't know why you're having. I just think, you know what, you're like Joe
got two
Pacific
bars.
and Little Abner.
Got 2 bars.
Okay. Well, that's part of it is that I'm on the,
There's a guest network here and then a
Yeah.
secure network, so I'm assuming Deb could give you the passwords for one of those.
All right.
yeah, because see, I've got on Hancock
Using it.
Secure.
It's not fast. It's not fast. I know, but it took forever for yours to come up onto my.
An Hancock guest asks for a password.
No kidding.
That's odd.
Usually it's guest.
Well, most guest networks.
All right, well,
will
I'm
have different
I'm
passwords.
connected
So
to an
that-
Hancock
just so that
Secure,
Not
but
everyone's
it's
using it.
not.
Yeah, I'm connected to an Hancock Secure
Let's see
and,
how fast it is.
and I've got, all the bars and it works fine, but I'm using my laptop.
Wait a minute, there's an Hancock PD guest.
I think that's the police department.
I don't think I want to go to the police department.
So,
We were at one point, we just went to Charter Spectrum maybe a year ago because we were with Newbeam for free. And that's point to point, and it was awful.
Yeah.
So
Trying to do a
this
speed
is
test.
Yeah.
This is fast to me compared to.
Why are we?
Okay, so,
We're ESCBA, the broadband authority. Huh.
okay, okay, back on to,
They're so
It's-
much
it's
more
seven- it's
expensive than
7:30.
residential because of the funding that
Related.
they get.
yeah,
So.
Well,
Yeah,
here's
exactly.
here's the speed test I just did for this internet right here.
okay,
one are you
this
on?
is not a meeting topic.
just
got
200.
You are a
I
technologic
Must be your.
black hole, my friend.
I just identified.
40.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, let's do that outside the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay, we need to wrap up our business for this evening. Okay, well, this has raised a lot of interesting issues. I will try to get, at this point, who is actually on the EDA? Yeah,
Isn't Rose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want the chair or the whole?
well, yeah, but I want to know how many people are actually on the EDA because they had at least one resignation recently.
I think we appointed Ann quickly,
So she
didn't we?
got a point.
Okay,
Katie Schwab is the chair. I believe Jake Dillon's on it. I think Rosemary has now resigned.
he resigned.
Okay.
Bill Chandler.
Bill Chandler.
Mhm.
And that's it.
Okay.
They have a couple of vacancies.
Because they've had.
They have vacancies. Okay, well, let's see. I will work on getting them to our next proper meeting, not our work session, but to the next the actual meeting. Okay, do we have anything else that we want to add? I mean, this is,
Talk about the B1, B2.
okay,
tonight?
we do need to, the issue that has come up. Okay, so am I closing this?
If I may just.
Okay, finish up.
Do I have your permission to continue the pointillistic approach so that we can then have items that we can move then into objectives that support all of the different areas that KC has a portfolio of options that KC has listed in her her,
Table of contents.
yeah.
Okay,
So that are economic development items that can be placed in support of the other issues.
okay,
Looking.
okay, this
As long
is
as I
what
have
I'll do.
permission, I'll just keep going.
Okay, well, this is what I'll do, Paul, is I will take this and try to move it. Some of it's gonna be in different places from where you have it, but I'll move it into the table of contents. It's just sort of a big working document.
Paul, I say go ahead.
I'll just
Yeah.
keep going. So that's why
Yes.
I
Yeah.
say wait a little bit
Oh, okay,
as I generate more so that you're not duplicating your own work,
okay.
you know?
Well, the big question is, what would you like to set as the tasks for the next working session? Hopefully we'll have a report on maps and what's going on with maps, right? And what we're
Yes.
doing with maps.
Yes.
If you have additional information that you've developed, I'm afraid to let this go on too long. I think we need to put it somewhere. Okay.
Julie, I'm just thinking, I like to do things as few times as possible.
Right,
And
but,
so
okay, look, I'm gonna give you a deadline and then what we'll do is
we'll talk.
I'll give you a deadline so that I can take what you've developed here and put it into the table, into this sort of table of contents, and then it's available for discussion, expansion, elimination.
Exactly.
Okay, so, so at any rate,
Okay, so
I have taken, okay, so we'll talk about maps, we'll talk about this a little more.
Can we talk about my goals document too? Can I go over that?
Yes, yes, that was the document that you put up that was based on the last plan.
Yes.
Yes,
Telling you
okay,
which ones have been accomplished,
right,
other information, comments, whatever.
right, and so
Is
that
on the shared
document,
drive? Okay.
it's on the shared drive, that's just gone up,
You should be able to click the link I emailed you.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay,
That's good.
and Jim's computer problems are beyond the scope of this committee, except insofar as Commissioner Adler would like to
Can help out.
serve as an IT consultant. Okay, between him and Debbie, we might be able to get you sorted out, Jim.
All right.
Okay,
you.
and, okay, and I will work on getting the EDA to come to the next proper meeting. Okay, and I've been working my way through the, coming up with, more of a digest of what's going on with the community comments. And I'll have that for you in 2 weeks, so you can just look at it. And I'll put that up on the drive too. Okay, so we'll know more about that. And, anything else?
That's
That's
not
a-
like a broken record. Do we want to talk about the request from the town council, or you want to wait until our next regular meeting?
Actually, why don't you just tell us what the
Yeah,
issue is, and
what the
then we'll
issue
not,
is.
then we'll be.
Okay,
I
I've
don't-
officially closed this conversation. So now we'll move on to that item. And so what is it that town council wants? It's new business.
Yes.
So,
Town council would like the planning commission to look at the zoning ordinances for B1 and B2. To, let me think. Particularly in B2, it says that all of the same requirements from B1 exist in B2. And it's, do we want all of those same things to be applicable in B2?
No.
well, one of the issues was that although the B2 ordinance said that the stuff from B1 applies, it then offered a different building height as its limit. It actually was not coherent.
Yeah.
So what happened was, that's why you get the guy who says he can do 4 stories out there, because what happened is, if you look at the ordinance, the top part says all the requirements from B1 apply in B2. Okay, and we may not want them to, including the issue of setbacks and stuff like that. But the one that is the sticking point is the height, because it then says that businesses are allowed to create something that is much 15 or 20 feet taller than B1. So
I guess
that was the
3
immediate
stories
sticking,
instead of
yeah,
3 or
3 or
something like
something
that.
like that.
If I'm hearing you, Kurt, what you're really asking us to think about is, do we want to essentially take as boilerplate or cookie cutter from one to the next, or do we want, does all B1 go to B2 except for some exceptions, or should we be carefully looking? And I think Jim said, they shouldn't just be the same with a few exceptions. And that's what you're asking us to consider.
Right, so
Okay.
the
that's
question
good.
is there a
Yeah.
pressing, is there a pressing time problem on this?
Not to my
No,
knowledge.
okay,
No.
all right. No,
Why
that,
don't we all look at it and talk about it at the.
Yeah.
we'll talk about it at our work session.
Do you want, or, I mean, don't you think it can wait until the regular meeting of the planning commission, or no?
Well, it is a
Let's
zoning
do
issue.
it. Let's
Okay.
get it done.
Okay.
I know I've read this and made notes,
Mhm.
so, I can, I'll
Yeah.
write up my notes.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Is there any other business? Thank you. I think these conversations, I think this is what we need to be doing, to tell you the truth. We need to sort of chat about all this stuff, and I learned something new. Certainly learned a lot new from Paul, and I learned a lot new from Jeff. I learned some new stuff from Jeff. So, we press on. So, may I have a
Madam
motion? to
Chair, I
adjourn?
move the meeting adjourned.
Can I have a second? Jim seconds, all in favor? Aye. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Now you can talk about your computer problems.
Think about B2.
I have to say, I'm not bringing up this to be a crank. I'm bringing it up because and I've worked, I said 30 year, I'm more of a 35 plus year